Hey, what's up guys, Zach here, and today we are talking about dynamic EQ versus multiband compression. So let's talk about how each tool works. Let's look at our standard multiband compressor. You've got 4 different bands of compression, and the way a multiband compressor works is by using high-pass and low-pass filters to separate each compressor into its own band of frequencies that it will compress separately from the other compressors. Whereas a dynamic EQ, on the other hand, uses a compressor to modulate the gain of an EQ filter. And the way that compression works with a dynamic EQ is that it compresses the frequency that you've selected, and then the range of frequencies around it will also be compressed, determined by your Q width. So if you have a wider Q, there will be more compression on frequencies around your frequency point. And then of course you have your standard compressor controls, so threshold, ratio, attack, and release. So let's go ahead and just look what this looks like visually. So like a compressor, you have to bring down the threshold before things actually start to be compressed. And you can see this blue line starting to come down, which is the threshold. And it's really nice to use the visual cues because you can actually see how far you'll need to go before you'll start affecting signals. So keep bringing it down, and now you can see the compressor is starting to activate. So same concept as with a compressor. You bring up your ratio and you'll achieve more dramatic gain reduction. You bring your ratio down and you can see that you achieve no gain reduction at 1:1. So a dynamic EQ is literally just an equalizer with a compressor attached to each band of EQ, and a multiband compressor are multiple compressors that are split up and apply compression on different frequency bands from each other. Okay, so I'm going to use a dynamic EQ on drums. So the first thing you want to do is listen to your drum track and see where we can use a bit of dynamic EQ. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is clean up some of the treble on the cymbals. And I just want to remove the treble when some of the cymbals are playing and it's sounding kind of harsh. If I use a regular band of EQ, I'm going to constantly have that frequency at a lower level. So when, say, it's a tom section or the cymbals aren't playing as hard, and I need that treble, it's going to be removed. So let's go ahead and find a cymbal passage that we can use as reference. Let's go ahead and figure out where the presence is. And I like to use an analyzer. You can solo the band too, which is really nice. Okay, so with a normal EQ, you can just pull that down, but what's happening is that frequency is always being reduced by 6.6 dB. Whereas I only want to reduce that frequency when the cymbals are playing hard, but not when the drums are playing more lightly or the cymbal arrangement isn't as dense. So let's go ahead and turn on our compressor. Okay, so go ahead and boost it a little bit, make the Q a bit wider. Now we're going to bring our threshold down until we can start to see it activating the compressor. There we go. Now I'm going to be dramatic here so we can sort of hear what's going on. The next thing that I might want to do with a dynamic EQ is control some of the low-mid buildup. And this is probably best done on the room mics. I'm going to sweep around and try and find where the low-mid is the most saturated. So you can see this band of EQ is really triggering when the snare and toms are being played because they are generating the most low-mid energy. So let's do the same sort of thing to the upper mid-range. So we go ahead and disable this and then just focus on that upper band of mid-range. Pretty happy with that. Let's unsolo the band, and now let's apply some compression. Let's add our other band that we just selected. I bring up the gain of each band to normalize the gain reduction as sort of like a makeup gain that you would apply on a regular compressor. So all I'm doing is looking for dynamic volume control of frequencies. So that's how you can use dynamic EQ on your drums, but really it goes beyond that, and you should be using it on any sound sources that are dynamic and need control over different frequency ranges. Other good instruments to use dynamic EQ on are guitars for presence and bass control on the bass frequencies, particularly when they're chugging. You can get a buildup of low frequency content that you can target with a dynamic EQ and control. And yeah, on voice recordings, dynamic EQs work great to control sibilance, to control room resonances, and in fact, I'm using a dynamic EQ on my voice right now to control resonance around 140 hertz. And yeah, that's dynamic EQ in a nutshell. If you guys enjoyed the video, it helped you out, remember to leave a like. Also remember to check out these other great videos on tips, tricks, and techniques for achieving great drum tracks and mixes. Thanks for watching, guys, and we'll see you next time.